Venerable sisters and brothers, Dhamma friends, today also we are going to start the day's Dhamma talk. May everyone settle down for that and pay and show the consent with 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Katami tayo dhamma pariññeyāti. Venerable sisters and brothers, Dhamma friends, in this retreat, we have taken this subject of feelings as the main topic for the whole series, and we got the quotation from the particular discourse known as Dasuttara Sutta, whereby Venerable Maha is asking this question from the audience, Katame Tayo Dhamma Pariññeyāti. What are the 3 things a yogi, a practitioner, must know thoroughly? Tisso Vedana. The short answer is 3 kinds of feelings. And then the Venerable Sariputta himself expand it and say, that is to say, the Sukha Vedana, Dukkha Vedana, Adukkama Sukha Vedana. The pleasant feeling, painful feeling, and neither pain nor pleasure kind of feeling. So that is what we were discussing for the last 2 days. And towards the end of yesterday's talk, we tried to understand, in order to penetrate and to understand thoroughly what are the proximate causes, what are the background situation necessary for one's thorough understanding. So I thought the most important thing here is to have mindfulness, and so therefore before going to the subject of feeling, I just tried to introduce mindfulness, that is also just bare attention or satimatraya. So that is the basic preparation of the ground for this deeper and deeper understanding of other matters. So first I thought introducing and discussing with the Satipatthana Sutta, and that was basically the first talk one must know day by day with this practical and theoretical understanding, the word meaning at least on mindfulness, and when and where one work and proceed further, the definition of mindfulness itself is evolving. It's a very dynamic thing. So to start with, we call it as being here and now, and be here and now without entertaining past or future projections, other people, other places, whatever the posture you are taken. If you are aware of it, if you are vigilantly, diligently know about it, that is what we call mindfulness. And there also, when it is presenting, the Buddha first took this sitting posture and then give number of clues how to start with. And there are, with respect to the body itself, there are 11 ways one can develop mindfulness. and one can develop, understand, and proceed. And in the Theravada tradition, in our Satipatthana Sutta, it has been presented as mindfulness on in-breath and out-breath at the starting point. But in other studies, comparing with the Sanskrit sources, Mahayana sources, according to Venerable Analayo's analysis, there the presentation first is not on the breath, but on the gross movements like walking, standing, and then only come to the sitting and the other postures. So there's a slight difference in presentation of these 11 ways to start mindfulness. And according to the Theravada tradition, the mindfulness often recognized as mindfulness on in-breath and out-breath. But when I started as a person, as I mentioned, I had no chance anyway, as a young man, to sit and do meditation. So my teacher was Venerable Dhammika from Australia. He compromised just to be mindfulness in day-to-day activities, something like brushing your teeth, walking one place to the other, like. And the book he presented me for further readings was Power of Mindfulness by Venerable Jnanaponika, Maha Thero. And unlucky enough, my English understanding at that time was not so profound, not so good. So it happened, Venerable Dhammika, to find a singular version, translation of the Power of Mindfulness. See here, Balamaime, I was reading again and again, and there, Venerable Jnanaponika, a German monk, and I think Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, when he was working, he knows more than anyone on the earth about Venerable Jnanaponika. He presents mindfulness as bare attention, and it was a kind of a revolutionary kind of presentation. The basics of mindfulness, and in Pali we can say sati matraya. And when you try to understand mindfulness in this bare attention mode, hardly you can attribute any religious values or any kind of thing. It is quite a scientific way, secular way. He drew all the nuances, shades of meaning with the help of Maha from Burma, and that book, The Power of Mindfulness, therefore, highly recommendable for anyone who wish to understand the other shades of meaning, other nuances about the mindfulness, and therefore that book so far been translated in 3 times to Sri Lankan language, Sinhala. All are very helpful. So when and where someone tries to introduce mindfulness, he or she must understand the very meaning of mindfulness is ever evolving. It is not a hard and fast thing. So therefore, somewhere you have to start. And then when you keep on practicing, you may find there are other number of ways to define it as and when you progress. So that is very difficult to expect from the beginner. Beginner always think the definition of mindfulness itself is something a fixed one. So if I am to add little more, when you are to study the 37 factors of enlightenment, that's also another presentation of the teaching of the Buddha, the mindfulness itself appears in 8 places. Each and every time It is evolving from the bare attention onward, and there's a shedding of worn out skin, and refinement happen again and again and again. So therefore, at the outset, you have to understand mindfulness is a kind of evolving thing, a changing thing, progressing thing, it's a dialectic in nature. So don't worry about whether you know completely or thoroughly about the mindfulness. You have to somewhere start and keep on practicing. So there also the Buddha first recommend you to be mindful on your corporeality of the body, the concrete nature of the body, the materialistic side of the body. That is why it appears in 14 forms. You can be mindful in breath and out breath. You can be mindful in your sitting posture, standing posture, walking, lying down posture. And you can be mindful on the 4 elements when you feel hardness in your body, when you feel hardness versus softness. So, of course, and fluidity or cohesiveness at the water element, or heat and cold like fire element, or stiffness, tension, movements, expansion like in the air element. So all these are possible ways. And 32 repulsive parts of your body, another corpse kind of objects you can use. So you have to be very pragmatic. Whatever may be prominent, whatever may be approximate, you have to take it as an object and continue. So therefore, whenever we are discussing each other in Dhamma discussions, when we are listening to others, those who are successfully progressing, they will really add more and more ways and more ways and means to develop. So therefore, if you are living with a mindful group, and if you are associating that kind of group and communicating and discussing, it will be very, very helpful. After a certain amount of mastery, after a certain amount of acquaintance, with the mindfulness in your body only, you are become qualified to go into the immaterial side or nama section, and there first appear this feeling, our subject of this series. So therefore, when and where you are to be qualified, be prepared, all the time use your body, use your posture, whatever the way it displays must be an object for meditation or to be mindful. Yata yatha vakayo panihito hoti tatha tathanam pajanati. Whatever the way your body display, the sitting posture or standing or walking or lying down, you have to be aware, be mindful according to its posture. So therefore, being a human is a blessed one. On the earth, many are not happy, many are not with gladness. They are talking about oneself, because they always try to find what is lacking in our human life. But the Buddha, it says, Olarika Kaya Patilabha, that means the gross body itself is a blessing. Because it makes object of mindfulness, whatever the way it is displayed, you can use it as a mindfulness. So this is the first point, you start to love yourself. Make loving kindness with yourself. Make the best friend with yourself. And then onward, you are a kind of a person, think positive and see reason to be glad under any circumstances, like Pollyanna. And with that only, you proceed to the feelings. Otherwise, the feeling will be a barrier rather than an object for meditation. So if you are successful, or at least in theoretical sense, or at least in deductive way, in the rational way, how to use your body, human body, for this development of mindfulness, then your mindset is prepared for the immaterial part, that is to say, feelings. So, that is the point when Maha is presenting the feeling as a subject is something you must be thorough. You must understand it in a very deep way, without bias or without our natural tendency of pleasure principle. We being human, or any living being, always think about how to be happy, or pleasure principle. So therefore, feeling, we always look from that point of view. So instead, if you are to see feelings as feeling, first you have to understand that whenever the materiality happens, the corporeality happens, it is we only see the tip of the iceberg. Whenever you see your bodily postures, whenever you see when you are walking, or closely observing the right leg touching of the ground and the left leg touch of the ground, or in sitting, in-breath mode or out-breath mode, of course you see, as far as you divert or advert your mind to the object, but the superficial observation is only expose the tip of the iceberg. That means maybe 1/10 of the whole scenery. So therefore you have to understand, through this tip of the iceberg, first you have to deduce the iceberg main body is under the water. Likewise, the breath appearing part or perceivable part is very tiny, but when you penetrate it, when you thoroughly understand it, you have to go deep and deep, and there only you can see the beginning of the breath, or beginning of the in-breath, and the end of the in-breath. Equally, the beginning of the out-breath and the end of the out-breath. So then you have to see, more you try to advert your mind, more you try to focus your mind, and as a result, when mind is penetrating into the object, for an example, the in-breath and out-breath, you may be cut off and isolated from the rest of the world. So more and more you go to the in-breath right from the beginning, through the middle and to the end, and then you are without a delay, without negligent, catch the beginning of the out-breath through the middle and then to the end of the out-breath. Your mind must be well focused to the two modes of this in-breath and out-breath. That means you are slowly cut off from the external matters, worldly matters, and you are free from the frustration, the tension pertaining to the outside world. But you have a certain amount of frustration, certain amount of tension, how to look from the beginning through the middle to the end of the in-breath, from the beginning to through the middle to the end of the out-breath. So your attention is there. That frustration, that kind of attention, that kind of effort, you must consider as a sign of progress. Not to be worried, not to be get bored, not to be get lethargic, but go deep into the in-breath and out-breath. Then only gradually you can slowly penetrate. It is also not happen overnight. You have to keep on practice based upon your early experience, your own trial and error, and then only one day you can see the total picture of in-breath mode and the total picture of the out-breath mode, and that is in Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha mentioned, Sabbakaya Padisangvedi, Asasisami iti Sikkati, Sabbakaya Padisangvedi, Passasisami iti Sikkati. You are bound to see the breath body in totality, in breath as well as in breath. So this is the tool you are going to use in the Vedananupassana when and where a pleasant feeling or pleasurable feeling or positive feeling happens. Don't be happy with its face value and try to see it thoroughly. For that, first and foremost is comparison between the pleasant feeling and the pain feeling. It is just like in-breath compare with out-breath. So you can say, when and where you in the in-breath, for an example, you not only know the characteristics, you not only know the manners of the in-breath, but verily you know it is not out-breath. That's also a piece of information. So when and where you are with out-breath, not only you know its characteristics, the shape, the manner, but verily you know you are not in breath. When you are walking, whenever your prominent attention is right leg, you may feel the pressure, you may see the changing of the pressure points from heel to the toes, and not only you know under the nose experience of the right leg, and your rational knowledge or inferential knowledge verily verify it. Now you are not with the left leg. You are not sitting, you are walking. So these are the background information. So that very verification is very important for the progress. So while you are observing and getting the experience and touch of the right leg, the understanding that is not left leg is never disturbing you. It is not complicating you. They are complementary each other. Likewise, when and where you are met up with pleasant feeling, you must feel its soothing nature and bodily and mentally happy, glad. And meanwhile, there should have the understanding it is not painful. And when and where you confronted with face-to-face with the pain, you can understand it's a torturing nature, burning kind of nature, but the comparison always must be there. It is not pleasant. It is not a pleasant feeling. So this is the stepping stone. This is the starting point in the subject of feeling. So yesterday we took the quotation from the Chullavedalla Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, whereby Sister Dhammajiva and the Visaka, they are discussing it in a question and answer mode, asking kind of leading questions. The Upasaka Visaka is asking, what are the three kinds of feelings? No, asking how many feelings are there, how many kinds of feelings. And then the Sister Dhammajiva is not only be contented with two kinds of feelings, she introduced the third. It is like, something like, not only the in-breath and out-breath, you can see at the end of the out-breath, before the in-breath, there is a gap. There's a unperceivable part we never experience unless otherwise we are really look into it. Unless otherwise we really go prepared for that. Likewise, when you are mastering and understanding the feelings, you must theoretically at least must understand it is not only the painful feeling, pleasurable feeling, or vice versa. That's the third aspect. Neither pain nor pleasure kind of feeling. So how to discern it? For example, if you take a pendulum, moving from one end to the other end, you can clearly see when it goes to the one extreme, it is appear like going to stabilize, speed slow down, appear like it is equilibrium, but it never rests at that slow down position. Again, it start the other way journey and go to the other extremes, and the speed becomes zero, and without any time gap, again it swings to the other party. So therefore your attention is more to look into these two extremes, because there you can see something dramatic happens. But when and where the pendulum is resting, it is not the two extremes, it is resting in the center. But when it is moving, that's the fastest place. But that is the equilibrium. When the pendulum is resting, it is resting in the center. So when you are look at the working or dynamic action of the pendulum, you never guess even when and where there is no power, no winding. It is resting in the middle because it is the fastest mode when it's working. So therefore, you have to understand in the pain also and the pleasure also, pain and pleasure appear like some kind of equilibrium, but they are utterly dynamic and changing. But in between, there's a point called neither pain nor pleasure. So therefore, Sister Dhammajiva is introducing it, so that whenever you are verifying, whenever you are experiencing it, it is hard to believe that's a middle part. That's a fourth noble truth, or eighth noble path. It's lying along this neither pain nor pleasure feeling. But it never present by itself. It is not a prominent, valid equilibrium from the face value. So therefore you have to be aware. And where you are with pleasurable feeling, see the characteristic features of the pleasurable feeling and be aware deductively or in a rational way how different it is with the painful feeling. And therefore there is a theoretical value for the painful feeling, even your emotional value, your pleasant pleasure-seeking, pleasure principle never appreciated. So when and where you are face-to-face with the painful feeling, you can compare it with the pleasurable feeling or pleasant feeling and see the difference. So therefore you gain, you can look at two in a different way, in a mindful way, in a radical way, in a comparative way, at least on the theoretical basis. So when you are continuing, when the pleasurable feeling is changed into, gives rise to the pain, painful feeling change and gives rise to the pleasurable feeling, so you can see how much you are impatient, how much you are unmindful, how much you are not ready at that situation. And instead, as I try to introduce or discuss towards the end of the yesterday's talk, how much you feel bored, how much you feel monotonous, how much you feel lethargic, how much you feel disinterested, how much you feel uncertain, how much you feel the kind of fear in this transitional area. So that is the way that we are away from our middle path. We cut off from our Eight Noble Path. So therefore, naturally, the commoners, the sentient beings, chasing behind the pleasure principle, and they think they know the subject of feeling. So that is why Venerable Sariputta is specifically asking us, don't think so, don't look at it from the superficial way, just by the face value, just go a little deep into this feeling with the help of mindfulness and the mindfulness on the materiality to see the beginning, the middle and the end of the individual kind of feeling. To lead into that, the Upasaka Visakha is asking from Sister Dhammajiva, dear sister, what is the pain and pleasure of the pleasurable feeling? So it is the question appears somewhat irrational, and so therefore, unless otherwise you contemplate on the answer, it appears like just the theory for the sake of theory kind of question. But the way the Sister Dhammajiva is answering is, the appearance and the persistence of the pleasurable feeling is pleasure, pleasing. But when it changes go into otherwise, or leading to pain, then at the end of pleasurable feeling, you end up with pain. Then you can deduce that you can deduce inferentially, you can understand, and there are some clues are there. So of course you find the pleasurable feeling, pleasant, but it is not absolutely pleasant. So always ending up with pain, unless otherwise the Buddha to appear on the earth, unless otherwise Venerable Maha Buddha to come and indicate us, unless otherwise Venerable the Sister Dhammajiva and the Upasaka is to have a dialogue and the discussion to pinpoint, we never go into such detail. So therefore this is what you call pariññaya, the deep and penetrative understanding. So just see that pleasurable feeling also, always it has its own element of pain at its tail end. So therefore any person chasing behind this pleasure principle, they are seeking pain. That's very true. And look at this scientific, technological world. Look at this, all the kind of glorious political presentations. They were really advancing, and the theories and the formulas and golden things appear like supreme, but end up with a disappointment. But they never see the blemishes or the tail end of the pleasurable feeling. But the poor nature, the poor people, or poor, not well-to-do people, they will be somewhat accept the painful feeling, because there is no other way. So when and where, and then Venerable Visakha is asking, what is the pain and pleasure, or painful and pleasurable part of the painful feeling? And then verily, Sister Dhammajiva is telling, appearance part and its persistent part of the painful feeling is pain. But the disappearance and the changing part of the painful feeling is pleasant. So therefore, whether you are a seeker of the pleasure or pain, whatever it may be, it is not in absolute form. So therefore, when and where you know now I am face to face with the painful feeling, and if you are persistent, if you are patient enough, just to see its end, just like observing the end of the falling mode or end of the out-breath mode. You can see quite transitional things are happening. So in our hasty life, in our busy life, how often do we observe the end of the out-breath or end of the falling mode of your abdomen or whatever may be the object? Now, do you think it is just wastage of time? Because we are very busy people. We have so much of responsibilities. We have so much of things to do. So I got an email from an elderly person, maybe 104 years old, American citizen. He is writing, he says, still my mind is clear. I can write email messages, and you people are worrying about the figures and data and kind of thing regarding your life. What is your blood sugar level? What is your pressure? And all kinds of things, just forget about that. Ask the doctor to take care about them. Take care about the breath. As far as you are worrying about this, all the figures and all the parameters and kind of thing, you're worrying from there, getting up till there, go to the bed. And so much so you forget about the breath. He says it is the most precious thing in our life. And when and where you are face to face with the breath, that's the only thought moment we can say, I am living. You know you are not dead. You know you are not unconscious. You know you are not sleeping. This is the only mode. So all the other so-called important things make this breath more trivial, or it is inert or passive. So therefore, you just miss the bus. I am very nicely writing, and he says, to the end, still I would say, just see the end of the out-breath. That's the point where you find the secret in your life. Just see the end of the out-breath. Master it. Go to the tapering end of the out-breath, the disappearing point of the out-breath, and you can see the reality or scientific thing end up with mystics. The reality end up with concepts. Perceivability end up with unperceivable. Explainability end up with unexplainable. The egotistic trip end up with no egotistic. Your conceit will be disappeared to the zero. Your desire disappeared and disappeared at zero level when you see towards the end of the out-breath. Likewise, if you are going to use the same technique with the end of the pleasurable feeling, the end of the painful feeling, there you can see how transient they are, how changing one into the each shape gives rise to the other, and you never see them unless otherwise you go prepared, unless otherwise you expect kind of a transitional mode or impermanent notion, impermanent nature, which our mind is never happy. Mind is always projecting and continuing with the permanent notion. Pleasurable means pleasurable. Nothing to deal with pain. Pain means pain. nothing to deal with pleasure. So therefore we must get rid of pain and we must maximize pleasure. That is what we teach our children. That's how we make our political policies, principles. When you make constitutions, when you make economic calculations, when we make social programs, we wish to give the pleasure to the society at large or you as an individual, but not a single being on the earth achieved it, specifically at the deathbed. It's utter disappointment. Because you missed the bus. Because you never look at it from the mindfulness point of view. You never look at it to see the entirety or totality, or you fail impatient to see the tail end. So when and where you are ready, radically reflecting it upon that and try to not only be efficient, not only be effective in observing the corporeality, with that starting point, with that experience, when you are to see this immaterial thing, or nama dhamma, or feelings, and keep your attention utterly focused to see the beginning of the pleasurable feeling, the persistent part of the pleasurable feeling, and the disappearance of it. And that maybe end up with the painful feeling, and equal, choiceless kind of attention, awareness, non-judgmental kind of awareness, equally suspended attention to the pain and pleasure, then you can see they are so connected to each other. Without pain, there is no pleasure. Without a pleasure, there is no pain. There is nothing called absolute pain or absolute pleasure. Even though that is the base you have so far calculated, and under your very nose, you may see this transient nature, transitional part, how the pain gives rise to the pleasure, how the pleasure end up with pain. And when and where you see how profoundly deep the change between the end of the materiality phenomena and end of the non-material phenomena. It's a huge difference, huge depth. So it must go in gradual process. First the mindfulness, and then, so to say, mindfulness on the materiality, in breath and out breath, or right and left leg, or rising and falling, or whatever may be. And with that, to go into these feelings, soon you sit, for example, in your cushion, you can't do it. You have to be a beginner's mind. Just focus your attention on your sitting posture and be aware. I am now here sitting, I am not standing, walking. And verify the configuration of the sitting posture. Just like a pyramid, or like an anthill, or like a dagaba, cheti. And then try to be happy, try to be glad. At least now you are mindful. And see what you feel. You may see these metabolic functions like breathing or rising and falling, whatever it may be, or the touching points, and be patient. Whatever may be prominent is your starting point. Don't worry that I don't see breath, so I don't see this, so I don't see that. That is what the worrying world. But the meditation, specifically the inside meditation, say, yata pakatang vipassana bhiniveso. Whatever may be prominent, that must be your starting point, access point. That does not, of course, reveal the totality, the system approach or entirety, but that is the starting point. That is the point many yogis missing. They sit with that expectation, that choice and all the kind of things, so end up with list of complaints, telling Bante, I can't see the breath, I can't see yesterday's happiness, I can't see this and that. And some people chasing behind the pleasure, some people chasing behind light perception, some people chasing behind lightness feeling. So each and every appointment going to end up with disappointment because they don't know the starting point is whatever may be prominent. So after so long kind of time of experience, the Buddha says, the most intrinsic thing of our living life is the breath. So he proposed this as an example, but he never asked to chase behind it. That is why he come out with 14 other meditative objects. So whatever may be, you start with and continue the progress of your mindfulness. And when it's happening, don't worry. After 14 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, pain comes. You have nothing to invite. Now I finish my Kaya-nupassana, now I go to the Vedana-nupassana. No, there is no such a kind of intentional thing. Pain is natural. It is coming. Whether you are a male or female. Whether you are young or old. Whether you are elder, whether you are educated person or not. Rich or not. Whether you are a very senior yogi or not. So whenever it happens, whenever the pain or pleasure, whatever it happens, there's no other way. With the help of the mindfulness you have, with the help of the mindfulness you develop with this corporeality, so whenever the pain, pleasure, feeling become prominent, just take it, accept it. So they are the gladness or preparedness to appreciation or verification of the very feeling coming. Don't let it be misguided by expectation of a pleasure or expectation of a light or lightness. That is how our attention is become weaker. So when and where it is happening, and suppose you feel painful feeling, just don't give up. Just be with the painful feeling. Understand how it differs from the pleasant feeling. And under the nose, experience what are the intrinsic, personal, individual characteristic of pain which you can't share with pleasure. So that you can see only red-handed, only under your very nose when the pain is manifesting. So if you are with a hateful feeling or to get rid of pain or seeking pleasure, you will never gain that sap, that juice of Dhamma, the pain Dhamma. So when it happens, just to see how it differs from the pleasure and what are the intrinsic characteristics, what are the personal characteristics, what are the under-the-nose characteristics of the pain, and when and where you try to be immediate with, diligently and vigilantly with the pain, you can see how quickly these characteristics are changing from one to the other. So each and every facet of the pain or painful feeling is a gain, is an endowment of your mindfulness. And it's a leading one to the other. And there you are observing the pain like a scientist, not like something to get rid of, not like a person hate pain, just observe it. So that radical kind of a reflection is completely give a new approach to this object of meditation, in this case pain. And when you go there, you can see you are one split second more face-to-face with the pain if you go with that kind of attitude. Don't try to be completely with the pain for the whole sitting. No, it won't happen. But more than yesterday, you will be face to face with 1 split second more, maybe 1 second more, or 1 minute more, and there you can see your mindfulness is 100%. When and where the pain is there, mind cannot be unmindful. Because it's a dragging power is there, not like the breath, not like the rising and falling, not like the left leg and the right leg, because pain is cutting, grabbing, unless otherwise you hate it. If you go prepared, you can see the pain is more give fertilizer and food for mindfulness, unless otherwise you consider it as a negative or negating or a bad luck or bad omen. So these are the things you have to cut through and observe it. Sometimes that kind of approach itself will give kind of a pleasant and kind of a forward-looking. And when you're observing it, the Maha is giving a tool. He says, when you are observing the painful feeling, note it as pain, 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 pain. And whenever you are observing the pleasurable feeling, pleasant feeling, note it as pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. And after a while you will see the pain and pleasure is like clouds passing the sky, and there are sometimes no clouds, and you can see the sky. And what is to be noted? No pain, no pleasure. In terms of feeling, you get lost. You may have some materiality kind of experience, you may have some perception related, you may have some volitional related, you may have some mind related objects, but as far as the feelings are concerned, when and where you note pain as pain and pleasure, after a while you may occasionally see there's nothing to note in terms of feeling, and there you look but you see nothing. So that is the point where you get bored, monotonous, and lethargic. And instead, Sister Dhammajiva is asking, label it as no pain, no pleasure kind of feeling. And when that you are ready and you are prepared and you are go with that mindset, and when and where you be aware for the first time, or you are face to face with this kind of experience, you are looking but see nothing. And there the Visakha is very sharp and very keen, very penetrative. He is asking, sister, venerable sister, what's the pain and the pleasure of the no pain, no pleasure kind of a feeling? Then you can see the sharpness, the penetrating capacity. The Sister Dhammajiva is saying, if you know this is what you call no pain, no pleasure, it's a pleasure. If you are ignorant about this no pain, no pleasure, it's a pain. If you are ignorant, you complain it as boring. If you are ignorant, you complain it as monotonous. If you are ignorant, you complain it as lethargic. If you are ignorant, you feel like lost. If you are ignorant, you feel like you are outcasted and use uncertainty and lost. Where the boundaries like. So that is the human world. And more you go there and go prepared, and the day you discern, this is not a pain, this is not a pleasure, and this is what you call no pain, no pleasure. For the first time I am aware of it. I am vigilant, I am diligent, I am mindful, then you feel the bliss. Then you feel the pleasure. And more you practice, you will see whether you sit or whether you walk or whether you stand still or whether you sleep, more than 80% of your time you are with no pain, no pleasure. That's the point you are searching for hobbies. That's the point you go for the television. That's the point you go for carnival. That's the point you go for writing SMS. You expect something to happen because you never appreciate, you never know how to deal with this no pain, no pleasure. So the day you appreciate no pain, no pleasure, you will be a human and be happy about this human life. You will be happy in the present moment and you are already enlightened. Most of the time, our mindset is not engrossed with so-called pleasurable or so-called painful. There is a gray area, so you can see how much phobia or how much of a fear, uncertainty we have, so much so we seek helps, blessings, and answers, solutions outside without penetrating into this reality, the truth. So more and more you go into that, you see your mindfulness is no more confined to the breath, in breath and out breath, or confined to the rising and falling, not confined to the left leg and the right leg in the mode, in the walking mode, or sit, or day to day, wherever you may be, whatever it may be, the moment you understand no pain, no pleasure kind of a situation, in my vocabulary, I call mindfulness become diversified. Each and every moment, you try to feel. Earlier you feel disinterested and lethargic and looking here and there to what to do. But the moment you understand no pain, no pleasure, you are living with Buddha. You are living with Venerable Sariputta. Or you are living with Sister Dhammajiva. And you are living with your pure nature. Your own innocent nature. Your under the nose innocent nature. And you can understand the danger of ignorance. Danger of phobia we have. Once that clouded situation go on, I would say that is how our spiritual life is started. So with that remark, I would like to sum up today's talk, and we progress only very little from yesterday's today, but we'll proceed further along this question and answer session of Sister Dhammajiva and Visakha tomorrow. Thank you very much for listening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.